Hi, this is Coach Joe Lucas, and welcome to this episode of the Magellan Network Show. And as you can see, if you've been following me at all, I am not in my office. I'm a little bit different today. I'm here today for the next several days. We are going to be doing our 2020 Strategic Planning Conference. And we'll have about 90 advisors in the room. I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but all the way on the top floor there's all kind of windows up there and things like that. So our vista, and I always choose places that have great views. We have the Atlantic Ocean, we have a park, and we have the Intercoastal. And we're surrounded by walls of windows when we do the work. So we'll be like on the 13th floor, beautiful vistas, and that's where we're going to do our work for the next couple days. So in this episode, what I want to talk to you guys about is planning. You know, we are at that point now where, Thanksgiving here in the United States is just upon us. Your 2019 is quickly coming to an end. And so now you got to set your sights on really two things. Think about it. Not only the next year, but it's the year that ends in zero. Start of a new decade, 2020, right? So what I want you to think about today is, how am I going to approach the new decade? What's my game plan? Because here you got two things going on. Number one, you have to wrap up 2019. So, you've got a couple weeks left of really maybe getting people to do things, and then we're going to go into shutdown time a little bit, get ready for holidays. And this is also very important. And a lot of advisors make this mistake. They push it all the way through December, almost through the holidays. Like they'll take a couple days around Christmas, take a couple days around New Year's, and then they're back at it January 2nd. And, there's no off season. There's no closure. There's no end in the beginning. It's just kind of like you're just back on the hamster wheel again doing the thing, right? So the first thing I want you to think about is getting a minimum of a week. Most of my clients will take 2 to 3 weeks of downtime where we're going to have an off season. We're going to wrap up our planning. We're going to rest. We're going to cover. We're going to get our mind right. So think about this. What a lot of people do is they grind out. They go into the holidays, and by the way, are the holidays like a healthy time of year? No. In fact, most human beings abuse their body the most between Thanksgiving and New Year's, right? In terms of alcohol, sweets, calories, and then the amount of exercise compresses, right? We do the least. So what happens a lot of times is you go into the new year mentally, okay, I want to get after it, but you just feel like crap. Like you didn't take care of yourself, and now you're going to sabotage your new year, your success, because you didn't put yourself in the frame. You got to think of yourself like an athlete, and the season starts, if you're thinking like January 2nd or January 6th or 7th, whether that Monday is, you got to get that figured out. It's critically important. So that's the first thing I want to share with you all today. The second thing is that you've got to figure out how to do your plan. So there are a lot of different elements of planning. I know for some of you who are also watching me here in our network show, you're also members of the network, so you might be upstairs with me doing the plan for the next couple days. But if you're not, and you're watching or listening to this via YouTube or my podcast channel, you need to have a plan to do your plan. That's our bottom line. So step number one, right? Where? So where am I going to do it? Like I've said, we don't want to go ahead and do it in our tactical environment. We don't want to do it definitely not in our office. I need you to find a place. Maybe it's a home office. Maybe it's a library. Maybe it's somewhere else you're going to go to, and just find a happy place to go ahead and do your work, right? I want it. And if you're going to stay local, that's fine, because you may need several different sessions to get it done. But I want you to have a place that feels good, and you're not going to get distracted with your phone, with email. Like I want to shut all that down, lock all that down. That's incredibly important. The other thing I want to do is I want to understand the different elements of a plan. So once I figure out where I'm going to do it, okay, now how do I do it? So if you follow our protocol, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to do a review and benchmark. And we have free tools available for you to do that. You can go into practicepower.net. There's also fabizplan.com. There's some benchmarking tools that we can give you there, totally complimentary. It's the work I do with my clients to at least set the stage. You know where your gaps are. The problem that when I take a new client through our gap analysis, our benchmarking protocols, it's literally 100% of the time. And they'll come back with an email or in a conversation, and they'll go, I had no idea what I didn't know. I kind of knew that was important, but I didn't realize how important it was till you pointed that out to me. So you've got to understand that you're going to have a gap, and you're going to identify. Now, we have 18 different benchmarks, 18. right? So from morning rituals to referral strategies to how you play with your COI game to your social to your branding, your client conversion, your prospect to client conversion process, your client onboarding process. I mean, there's 18 different protocols that you need to get around to be effective. So you want to make sure you do that. So first off is benchmark. Now here's where a lot of advisors kind of screw their pooch, if you will. They think of this process as a very academic or analytical process to plan, right? So there's a tendency to do two things. Get the spreadsheet out and get the calculator out. And let's start playing the numbers game. That, to me, in my experience, is least important. Because you've done that in the past, and let me ask you a question. How successful have you been at that? All right, probably not too much. So here's what I want you to think about. I want to work backwards. And here's what I mean by that. What I used to do is I used to focus on the business. When I cut my teeth in this industry back in the early 90s, I was lucky enough or blessed enough. I wrote for Horse's Mouth for many years. And so I kind of got this this kind of notoriety about morning rituals and daily game plans. We didn't call it Magellan 5 or Magellan Morning 8. We had different names for them back then. But I was able to create a syntax where I can take an advisor and get them more consistent, get them more successful. And so I was always locked in on the business side. And what I found after about 8 or 9, 10 years of that was I've had clients making more money, but they weren't any happier. Like, okay, I got the bank account's looking good, but I'm still a train wreck, right? I'm still not where I want to be with my balance. And so I had to really rethink everything that I did. And I came to the conclusion that I was doing it backwards. Work on the business, then figure out the lifestyle thing. Now I totally invert. So today what we do, and this is what I'm asking you to do, is I want you to think about what kind of lifestyle you want, right? So what kind of house you want to live in, car, bucket list trips, wardrobe, where you live, what your office looks like. I want all that, right? I want you to get to, quote unquote, I call it the vibe, right? What is your vibe going to be? And then what I want you to do, if you have a significant other, I want you to include them in this process. Sit down and both of you get together and say, hey, what do we want our lives to be? How much money does our business need to earn to make that a reality for us, right? Because there has to be context. You just can't say I'm going to do 20% more every year, I'm going to do 10% more every year, and not have meaning behind it. It's not going to give you the emotional juice to get up each morning that you need to get up when you don't want to get up, and you bring your A game when you don't want to bring your A game. It doesn't work that way. So you need to really make sure. So the first thing is we don't get involved with the business. How do you want your life to look 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now? How do you want it? Like, where do you live, trips, all that. Like we have a whole module in our business planning process called our Ultimate Life and Lifestyle, where I have clients articulate their grand vision for themselves personally. Then we ask the all-important question: what does the business need to look like in order to pull this off? So what does our business need to look like, right? So what's our top line? What's our bottom line? How many clients? What's the marketing look like? What does the team need to look like? How do you need to evolve as a leader? All those things, we take that into consideration. So step 1, lifestyle. Step 2, business, right? And there are elements, 5-year, 1 year. I'm not going to get into that here in this process. We have a whole built out scenario for that. So what's next after that? Globally speaking, okay, so I got my personal life figured out. I've got my business figured out. Next part, how do I get there? So what's the marketing? What's the branding? What's the business development? Because, I mean, I've yet to see it in my 25 plus years of doing this where somebody could achieve what they want without growing, right? So that's growing top line, right? That's growing bottom line. Now let's talk about growing top line. How do you grow top line? There's only 2 ways. Number 1, you get more clients. Always a good idea. We're always going to have attrition. Number 2, for some of you, this is really number 1. I've got to increase the amount of business I get from my current clients. That's a very simple term for optimization. I need to make sure I have all their money. It's fee-based. I've done their insurances. I've done their financial planning, which I get paid for. I do everything, right? And I increase the yield out of my current household, and I radically increase the profitability of my current households. For some of you, man, that is your game right there, right? So number 1, new clients. Number 2, more revenue, business from current clients. 1A, 1B. Think right foot, left foot, Okay, what's next? Well, if I'm going to need new households, how do I pull that off? Well, I like the referral game. Most advisors suck at the referral game. They suck at referrals and introductions because they make it way too complex. They think there's some grandiose strategy or name or letter or something I can send out that's going to magically, no. It's a daily grind of keeping your stuff in front of them. It's reminding your clients every day you're open for business. That's how we pull it off, right? That's the best way I know to do that. Now, as far as optimization goes, the best way I know how to optimize a client is through two different strategies. Number one is the review process. And we have a 8-step review process built out in Magellan Network. Number two is we go ahead and do financial planning, or at minimum a balance sheet. So the one thing I advise all my clients on, minimum standard of care. Every client, from A client, AAA client down to a D client, has an active balance sheet, which is just like a simple net worth statement. You need to know where your client's economic bodies are buried. I will guarantee you run this protocol, you're going to be very surprised, a little pissy first, like, how did I not know that? But economically, you'll be very happy you went ahead and did this protocol. So these are just some things I want you to focus on, right? So I want you to think, so design the life, design the business, grow the business. Now, think of it as 3 buckets. Design a life, design a business, grow a business, right? And then we have our little benchmarking protocol, right? I want you to think of it as this process. Now, here, this weekend, really, half a day Thursday, we do mindset, right? So we're going to do Mindset Thursday. Friday is all planning, 5-year ideal life and lifestyle, 1 year, like we're going to really rock it out, goal setting. We're going to do everything on Friday. Saturday, we do nothing but branding, marketing, and business development. 3 things, right? And literally, it's our largest event we do. I'm told that I'm the only coach in the space that does a multi-day deep dive strictly about business planning. I mean, you get like an 87-page workbook, and we crank through this thing over these 3 days in a beautiful venue, because that's what needs to be done. Now, we're sold out this year, but if you want to get on next year, so it'll be the weekend before Thanksgiving always. It'll be somewhere here in South Florida. So if you want to get on the list for the 2021 planning conference, just reach out to me, LinkedIn, Twitter, email, make a comment, whatever you want. We'll put you on the list. We'll get you an invitation when we get that all set up. Probably be about 9 months from now. But you should experience this and come check it out. Come check me out. All right. So before we say goodbye on this episode, I want to thank all my listeners. I want to thank all my watchers. I guess that's a term. And I need your help. So what I'd like you to do is forward this episode to a friend. Make sure you subscribe to me on YouTube and also on Spotify or SoundCloud or wherever, or iTunes, whatever you do. Make sure, if you love my work, help spread the message. All right. With that being said, I will not be here next weekend because it is going to be a Thanksgiving holiday here in the United States. So for all my friends here in the U.S. and globally, because we have many listeners in different countries, I want to thank you and appreciate you. Happy Thanksgiving for supporting my work, watching, consuming my content, and helping me spread the word. So happy Thanksgiving to my world family, and I'll see you all in about 2 weeks.
So there you have it. If you really enjoyed watching this episode, go ahead and subscribe to the Magellan Network Show with Coach Joe here on YouTube. And remember, I'm always here to help you become a better entrepreneur, business owner, and financial advisor. With that, I'll see you next time on the Magellan Network Show with me, Coach Joe. Take care and goodbye.